morning. How you doing, everyone?
Greetings. Hello, Versan. How are you doing today? All good?
Great. I love the weather. It's getting colder, and it's nice. You get to put on your jacket and drink your coffee or hot chocolate. Can't complain.
Yeah. Today was the first cold day in Greece. For me, actually, it's not very cold, but 18 degrees. For me, it's already cold. I'm used it to have sunny weather
Mhm.
360 days per year.
Yeah.
So today for me is cold.
Well, I'm just happy I'm on YouTube again. I was shadowed for a whole week. They removed our video. They wouldn't let me make any posts. I couldn't even comment on things. So I'm just glad that's over with. Now we can get back to work. I think David just joined us. Is he here,
Yeah, I think he's
David?
fixing the mic. Give us a positive sign, David, if I can add you on the screen, or if you are still getting yourself prepared, then just ignore it and we give you a couple minutes. We can't hear him. I
And
guess
where's my
he's
brother?
getting.
He
Just
should
make
be
a
here.
positive sign when you are ready, and I'm gonna add you to the screen.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, we have a lot to talk. We
mhm.
had some positive news for the ecosystem. I don't know which topic you want to talk first, Versan. We didn't discuss an order of things today. It's very spontaneous.
I mean, there's a lot to
And
talk
yeah,
about. So, well, I mean, we could talk
There
shortly
we
here
go.
about what's up, David. Good to
Can you
see you.
guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
good, good.
perfect.
Thank you
Yeah,
for waiting. I was on the walk with Judy out there, and I hadn't looked down at my phone because I was in a coaching session. Then I'm like, oh, frick.
Mm. Well,
That's
yeah, I have a call here shortly, guys.
no,
So
that's fine. I
there's
get it.
just so much to talk about. I don't know. Would you guys like to start with what's happening with the Brics? I know that meeting is tomorrow, or you guys want to start with
Yeah, Brics is
what's going
good.
on with the meme coins?
Meme coins, Musk, First Ledger.
Musk, we could talk about anything. Okay. You know what? Maybe we should start with the Brics. Guys, that's what I've been focusing on, more of the geopolitical stuff. I'm too versed in this
Yeah,
technical crypto space. Like
sure.
there are more
Is
important
Versan
things
coming
going on.
or not? Versan is Vandell coming?
Yeah, he'll be here shortly, I believe.
Okay, all right. Good, good.
Feel free to send him a message. But okay, so we know that the Brics meeting is taking place tomorrow.
Yeah,
And personally, we all know this, I think, but you can anticipate like significant updates on more dollar de-dollarization trends. Putin actually made a speech recently, a few days ago, and it was very revealing, but the devil's in the detail. And what he did was he pointed out that the combined GDP of the BRICS nations and China, even what's going on there, that they have surpassed the United States GDP or the
yeah,
G7, the GDP of the G7. My apologies. And I think that was really a signal letting the world know that the BRICS nations have almost reached that point of financial sovereignty. And that's really just moving away from the reliance of the US dollar. And let's not forget, like the sanctions are still piling up and there are more on the way to attempt to bolster the dollar, right? Basically to prop it up. And all of this is really backfiring on the United States. But I think while the US continues to, they're struggling, the political class is struggling to maintain its grip on power. And what they're doing is actually offloading the burden onto the average consumer. That's us. And this is why inflation is surging. This is why everyday people are feeling all the economic strain more than ever. So I think it's just important that we ask the right questions. And there are critical questions that most people in the United States are not asking themselves, like, what have the BRICS nations actually been doing in preparation for this shift? One thing we can look at is the technology. And I think that's where Ripple ties in, blockchain payment systems into their infrastructure. At the same time, they've been amassing significant amounts of gold. So there's a very strong possibility that China could actually be the ones to introduce some sort of gold-backed currency, which would explain why the Chinese government is actually incentivizing their people to go buy gold. And it's funny because here in the United States, you don't see our US politicians telling the people to go stock up gold. Instead, they're telling you to go buy bonds while quietly buying all the gold for themselves. And I'm just telling people to consider this. And this all ties into the BRICS. But Do you know why the United States is the larger debtor nation and why it carries so much debt? It's simple. It's because they don't ever pay their bills. So what makes anyone think that the US bonds are actually a secure investment? I think the only real buyer of these bonds at this point is the United States government itself, but they can't put that on their balance sheets because the confidence would be lost. So you know what they're doing? They're using vehicles like Tether to keep it off their balance sheets. Anyways, we're going to see a lot of information come out tomorrow with the Brics. A lot to talk about. We'll see what happens. You guys.
Well, for sure, China is not like when you take a nation like China, because you're mentioning how they're encouraging their citizens to buy gold, but not only are they buying gold as the refined commodity, they are gobbling up gold mines like crazy. In fact, one of the Chinese mining companies just recently, not too long ago, went into Ghana and paid over $1 billion buying up their gold mines. So they're not just buying up the refined supply as fast as they can. They're literally getting involved in the production of it. So to me, it wouldn't be surprising to see some sort of revaluation from the BRICS countries when it comes to their currency backed by something that people trust. And of course, people right now, I mean, even in the United States on a retail level, you cannot keep gold in the stores. Costco tried that whole gold thing. Boy, the moment they get some in, it's gone. Like bang. Physical demand is insane right now for gold and silver, and primarily gold, because in a lot of these, Eastern countries, Middle Eastern countries, and the Southeast and things like that, China and Japan and all that, they don't really accumulate silver the way the West does. They don't use it like a monetary instrument like we have or anything like that. But I'll tell you, man, are they gobbling it up? And when you think about that too, you think, okay, the central banks are betting against their own system by going out there and accumulating gold at such a rate while they're turning around and like you say, encouraging us to buy T-bills, which basically is buying debt. Let's be honest, that's exactly what it is. Right. And the chokehold they have over this whole system under the current, because they're destroying the purchasing power. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, with the amount of new notes that are, well, and it's not even printed money, of course, it's digital money, but what they're adding to the ledger for the US dollar. I mean, who really has genuine confidence on a global level in the US dollar? Not many. Even our allies are not even, getting on board to the degree they once did. So that says to me volumes.
Very good point. Edo, your thoughts. And by the way, when you're done, Edo, I want to play this clip that kind of supports what we briefly talked about here.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Versan. Great insights. And I want to bring a bit of an European perspective. And just last week, the European Central Bank has lowered interest rates in a quarter point, just following the US policies, right? And they call inflation under control. That's what they are reporting on the Euronews and mainstream channels. However, you can ask anyone in Europe and you can verify that that information is not accurate. Inflation is not under control, and the purchasing power of the average citizen is going down drastically. And I just feel that myself. I mean, it's not only in Greece. I live in Greece, but I am from Italy. And everyone you talk is the same complaint that the cost of living is going through the roof, and that's associated with currency devaluation. So you might think it's only the US dollar that is losing power, but that's a global trend that's affecting specifically the US. Europe, most of G7 economies are highly affected, and the dominance is fading away for the US dollar. And I would argue that Euro is doing the same fate as the US dollar. And we have to ask ourselves why central banks are following the same policies. If it's not working on the US, why are European countries copying the same strategy? Well, it's because central banks are colluded. They have done what they have done in the past decades. And unfortunately, we can't go very deep on who is in control of central banks, because that would get our channels down. However, you can understand that there is a global movement that is seeking to devaluate our currencies. And we are at a turning point where there is no return anymore. I mean, the damage has already been done. And what central banks should be doing if they wanted to fix the economy, I can put that on a scale, and I would argue, let's say that I am 100,000 euros or dollars in debt. The first thing that I should do, as the more logical solution, right, is to spend less money. It's as simple as that. There is no way in between. If you are in debt, you need to spend less money so you can pay off your debt. But that's not what the central banks of both United States and European countries are actually doing. They are incentivizing more spending, which is just delaying a natural process of swifting away from the US dollar as a reserve currency, because the trust is already broken. Nobody trusts the US dollar anymore. That's a fact. And the central bank policies are not either trying to fix the situation, they're just making it worse, while simultaneously lying about the inflation numbers, which are, I promise you, every time you go in the supermarket, it's up 5% in the month. If you look back 1 year ago, I would argue that it has doubled. It's 200% increase in less than 1 year. And they are telling you on television that inflation is like below 2%. So that doesn't make any sense. And Versan, you can go ahead and play the video.
Well, how many times have I called you, Dave? And David, sorry. And
no
said,
problem.
David, you're not going to believe how much money I've spent. I spent like $500 at the grocery store getting a small bag of a few items, but good quality food, because I can't put toxicity into my body. So
no, that's right. Well, the government, doesn't treat debt the way you and I would treat debt either. Remember, their biggest temptation is to inflate their way out of it.
That's right.
So that's the whole. They're trapped in their own downward spiral now. The thing is this: I really do believe they know it. I 100% believe they know it. And in behind the scenes, and what they're keeping out of the majority of the public eye is the infrastructure that they're putting in place to replace the system that they're outright destroying, and they're doing it on purpose.
That's correct.
And so that's the thing that people are not seeing. They're not looking behind the curtain. And of course, what they care about is, like you said, Edo, and that is that, they go to the grocery store and they see the prices are higher. They're just trying to make it. They're just trying to see if they can stay afloat, keep their head above water. And of course, easy money. Like, a lot of people don't think about this, but when you go to apply for a credit card and you're doing it through any bank or anything like that, it is ultimately the Federal Reserve that gets to approve that. It is not just the bank. And if you're involved in the banking system, you know that is an absolute fact. So play your video clip here, because I think it's going to be important. But that is a distinction as to why common sense says, hey, you would reduce your spending and reduce your debt. But that's not the government's way. They're going to inflate their way out of it by destroying the purchasing power of the dollars. Yesterday's dollars are going to be worth more than because they're printing. Tomorrow's dollars are going to be worth way less to pay off yesterday's debt, that kind of thing. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, now that you put that out there, I have to put a thought too. But for the community to understand really what this boils down to is what's happening in the traditional monetary system. So dollar liquidity, that's what it comes down to. And dollar liquidity is plunging, meaning there isn't even enough money in the system for the government to fund itself, no matter how much money they print. Debt is out of control. And then there are other systemic issues that really tie into this. What you were trying to say, Edo, is how all other currencies are still tied to the dollar because the dollar is still the reserve currency. But again, the most critical aspect here is dollar liquidity and then currency cycles. So because the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency for a long time, currency cycles do come to an end. And the dollar's purchasing power is not what it used to be. So naturally, on that basis, liquidity is going to dissolve in the dollar. So on that basis too, you have institutions and governments worldwide who are looking for a reserve currency that is a substitute where it could provide that liquidity, not just liquidity purposes, but also as a medium of exchange. And another critical question a store of value. What is a store of value? If it's not the dollar anymore, we have to ask ourselves, where do we park our money? And that's really one of the complex issues in this space, is that they don't want to hold the dollar. The price of metals is still being rigged, and they don't see that they can actually get return in there. So, I mean, I understand, but we have to look at what the 1%ers are doing. And the institutions are buying up gold, physical gold, and they are using some of these technologies. And that's what we're going to get into here shortly. I'll play this clip just to give people an idea of where your tax dollars are still going. And that ties into what China just did with their military the other day. You saw what happened, guys. They were telling their military to prepare for war if America had something to do with Iran. And that was in 2021 when they revealed that they already had a war ready for 2020 for Iran. So listen to this. Hopefully you can hear it.
If China owns 800 billion of US debt, which they do, then of course the United States, as the borrower, has to pay interest for the money it borrows, which means that you and I and everybody else gets to pay taxes every year that go to Washington, where they don't fund our roads or schools or hospitals. It's money that the United States government collects and sends to Beijing to pay interest on the debt, and the Chinese use to develop the Red Army. Do you understand? All of this has to happen beneath the surface. Because if Americans understood what I just said, they would realize that beneath all the reality is the opposite.
I don't know about you guys, but that video really struck me. When I heard that, I said, I have to share this with people. I think you guys are on mute.
No, that was big. That is a reality of what we're looking at. And, because the debt market, as and a lot of people really don't understand the flow of money in markets, but it starts in the debt market for sure. With the every time, the central banks create money, they're creating debt. That's what it is. Augustine Carson literally calls them liability instruments, whatever the notes are. He's the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements. And then, of course, how do they do it? Well, they sell, U.S. government bonds, right, to nation states. And it's amazing how many of our adversaries are heavily invested in these bonds and literally could control impacts, on the dollar. And to think that, they're printing money out of thin air, they're going out there and creating these debt instruments with it, and then turning around and taxing their citizens to pay them back the money that they did create out of thin air, so that they can send that forward to our adversaries to pay interest on debt because the adversaries went out and bought these bonds. It's just insanity.
Yeah, but it's important for people to know it. And the fact that now people are awakening to what's happening and what the US has been doing for a very long time, this is a very positive sign. I totally agree with you. But it's just insane how this is still going on.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that tomorrow we're going to find out, we've already heard from the Brics nations that they're committed to de-dollarization. They are committed to it. And I think what they're going to start presenting is, I remember when the European Union, we're all discussing the beginnings of the euro. Well, I think we're going to definitely see a currency traded among these nations, and they're going to take themselves out of this whole situation. Sanctions are no longer going to be tolerated by them. They're going to remove themselves from this current financial system. It's probably and more than likely based on distributed ledger technology, but backed by some big time commodity instruments like all the gold accumulation that they're doing. And think about this. This is absolutely mind bending. But do you realize the enriched uranium that the United States needs to keep its infrastructure for electrical power going? It comes from Russia, the majority of it. Can you fathom that? And, and then the lithium that we import for a lot of the applications, that comes from China. These people could literally put a stranglehold on this economy, and most people think that, oh, the US, they're too big. Are you kidding? They are not that big. They could literally be chokeholded, and that's why I think we're being marshaled into a new third go around with, you know what I mean? That's
Well,
what
they don't have a choice. They've been cornered anyways. And now we can tie this, I guess, into the digital infrastructure, what's happening. A lot of news. Edo, would you like to begin? I know you were doing a lot of research. You put out some very good tweets the other day as well. Can you provide that insight?
Yeah, so we can tie I think there is an intersection between what BRICS nations are doing, distributed ledger technology, and gold. And well, that comes from Kristalina Georgieva, the head of the IMF. Probably you are familiar with a clip of her where she has said that CBDCs that aren't backed by anything tangible are just a repackaging of the current system. So she's really making us believe that CBDCs not only are like a matter of will it happen, but she's making it clear that CBDCs are coming and that they have to be backed by something. There has been a very interesting document, and you can find on my channel. There is a breakdown of everything in regards to Russia, and we'll find all the links. So if you are interested on the PDFs, I have dropped all of them on the description of the video. And it's very interesting that the conclusions for BRICS nations is that their new economic system is going to be based on distributed ledger technology. That's very interesting. I still have this written here on my whiteboard. And not only a lot of people use it to say that there was a very good evidence from the Central Bank of Russia from 2020 document. And people use it to say, whoa, but look, that is 4 years ago when Russia had successfully tested on the XRP ledger. And just as a side note, revolutionizing the financial system is something that you expect to happen within years, not months. So the fact that it's from 4 years ago makes it even more relevant, right? If they start testing today, we should be a couple of years ahead still before implementation, right? But they just came with another document from 2024, and that comes straight from the Central Bank of Russia, which talks about, I don't remember the title precisely, but is about digital payments. And they had displayed a diagram, and that's in Russian, by the way, but I had translated it. And you'll find a diagram of cross-border payments where they depict some of the BRICS currencies, like let's say Russian rubles, and they depict a diagram where they are sending, I think it was Mexican pesos, and then the transaction goes through XRP in 3 seconds, and it gets converted to the destination currency, which in the case it was Mexican pesos to Russian rubles. So you do have the Central Bank of Russia. It's not like an opinion that's officially released by the Central Bank of Russia, where they are telling you about the use of this technology. In other words, the XRP ledger and XRP, the digital asset itself, they're not only using the private ledger or some conspiracy that people will say, but they're using the digital asset XRP, which itself represents a lot. And they're not hiding it from public. They're just not coming on national television and saying it to everyone, but behind the scenes, that's being actually implemented and that's being discussed. So I think that's a massive development, and I do expect that this puts an end to the story that, a lot of people say BRICS would never touch an American technology. And we have said this multiple times, the XRP ledger doesn't have a political bias. And the United States needs XRP more than XRP needs the United States. And that's the beauty of a decentralized, permissionless blockchain. So I think we are heading towards a new world reserve currency that's going to be based on the distributed ledger technology. And I think the kickoff is going to happen intra-BRICS.
I agree. I agree. Can I just I want to address a comment just to show like how few people really understand the system. There's a comment in here by an individual who says the US stopped printing money in 2017. Look at your bills. Well, that is a very kind of like it shows the lack of understanding a lot of people have, because it's not in terms of physical currency. There's only about 5, maybe 6% tops for all the funds on deposit. It does not mean they've stopped printing money. They're issuing over $1 trillion digital less than every 90 days. And what you're talking about, Edo, is absolutely for a fact. I mean, I will point out we have Omar Aljara in the comments here.
Man, my father's there.
Yeah, and Omar just said something not too long ago in the comments there to address Brics Pay, how they're already out there utilizing a distributed ledger system, and they're out there using this as a means of payment now. And to think somehow that these, I mean, you think of these countries combined, you got, of course, Russia, you got China, you have got India. You're looking at what, 2/3 of the world's population? And you don't think that that's going to have some kind of impact, and the West is really able to circumvent that? No, they are not.
Absolutely.
They're
And
not.
let's welcome Vindel.
Yes, I was going to
By the
say.
way, glad to see him here. And I want everyone to know my father is
sorry, you guys.
He's an incredible researcher. Him and I would talk about this stuff on the phone every now and then. But good to see you, Vindel. Glad you're here.
Good to see you guys all. I apologize for the delay. David, how are you, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. And we're going to give you the floor because we've all been talking. So you need to get your thoughts out there. But go ahead, Versam, with what you're about.
I'll make one final comment, but you're welcome to bring Vindel up to speed. But as far as the BRICS nations, we can confirm, the world's largest financial institutions, which do include the IMF, BIS, World Bank, and even the World Gold Council. And that's what I found the most interesting. They were the ones who came out in 2017 and said, we are exploring digital assets, specifically blockchain, distributed ledger technology. We are looking for someone, they said, that can make a stable coin that can effectively replace the dollar backed by gold. Those were his words. It's on my X account. You're welcome to watch it. Put it on the YouTube channel years ago. And then you look at what's actually being done on these networks. The issuance of stable coins can, right now on the XRP or on the Stellar network, I think you're going to see the issuance of stable coins as far as a basket of currencies, a basket of commodities, what I'm trying to say, which is then pegged to some sort of currency. So all of this is actually playing out in real time. And when you do the research, and we've put this out there so many times for everyone out there to do their own research as well, you find out that once again, Ripple is the technology that's been adopted by these institutions. Now, Ripple uses a digital asset called XRP. What does XRP stand for? Most people don't even realize. XRP actually stands for Cross-Border Remittance Protocol. It's the protocol. That's where the value is. Anyways, we'll explain that some more later.
Yep.
But no,
and the X, it designates that
no
it's
political
agnostic.
bias.
Yeah,
correct.
it's agnostic. It's not tied to any one country.
That's correct.
Yeah, and it's interesting how people still think when you bring up the conversation of crypto, most people, they think you're just purchasing a token, and it has the speculative aspect of it, of course, because we're so early in the stages of crypto and the blockchain technology development. We're early, so it's very speculative. However, though, when you bring the conversation up to most people, they think you're just purchasing a token. So I think you guys really hit home the point when you talk about the protocol and the blockchain, which is really the fundamentals and the foundation behind it. Important for people to understand. By the way, did you guys already discuss Elon Musk's response?
No, I was going to play that clip here shortly.
Okay, we got to talk about
play
that. So it's so funny because his body
Let me get it.
language and the way he answered the question, it says a lot, So, yeah, this I think was just yesterday.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and play that, guys, if you want to hear it. I also increased the audio. There was not one person out there who took the time to increase the audio for everyone to hear, so I went and did it. Listen to this. I hope you guys can hear it.
Towards crypto under this administration. Do you envision the XRP ledger being incorporated into the financial institutions in the future?
Well, I certainly cannot speak to any specific crypto, but I do think that the sort of cryptocurrency is an interesting and probably valuable bulwark against a centralized control.
He's talking about the protocol, just so you know, when he's describing that last part. Cannot comment on a specific currency, but I can talk and tweet about Doge. I can tweet about Bitcoin. I can talk about it, but I can't talk about XRP. And it's interesting because even a lot of the guests that have come on our show, Vendel, how many times have we talked about this off camera, Vendel and I? We'd be like, did you notice that, they're very hesitant? And even one of our friends, Clive Thompson, he switched his stance. And a lot of people commented on this. So there's always hesitation for some reason by these experts and these guys for Bitcoin and for XRP.
What are you going to play? What else he said after that? Because he basically says this, okay, you can watch the rest of the video, anybody watching. He says, this is not an endorsement for XRP or neither a non-endorsement of XRP. But if you pay attention to the way he was very careful with the words he chose and how he answered the question, any body language expert can tell you that there was some nervousness and anxiety going on there, and he was being very strategic with how he answered the question, probably because the big dogs up there are watching him and saying, hey, be careful what you say, buddy. But it's funny because he says, I can't endorse XRP. He actually says that, but this is not an endorsement or a non-endorsement for it. But it's funny because he always endorses different cryptocurrencies. So he endorsed Doge before. He endorses Bitcoin. And that says a lot right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Spot on,
interesting.
Absolutely.
Guys,
And
I want David to
go ahead, David.
Hit this on the nail real quick because there's a guy in here. He's back. His name's State of Mind. Said, dude, XRP will go to zero after RLUSD. How many times have we actually talked about this on and off record? But David,
this guy's state of mind, he's got the wrong state of mind. the last show that we had, he was out there. He was just basically dropping all kinds of FUD. And I was there at the Digital Chamber of Commerce dinner in Vegas. And I had been brought there by a community member, Zach, who really blessed me because those tickets were, big time bucks. Anyway, I was less than 10 feet away from Brad Garlinghouse, who literally explained, he said, look, if you think that because we're going with RLUSD, that we've abandoned XRP, then you've lost the plot. The fact of the matter is RLUSD is going to provide liquidity in a powerful way to this XRP ecosystem, and it will probably cause the price of XRP to absolutely explode, in my estimation. We've watched this happen. Stablecoin markets. Now, most people they don't even understand how stablecoins make money, by the way. Stablecoins make money because as big institutions deposit funds with them, they go and they take those funds and they actually invest it, believe it or not, in, some solid, T-bills, different things like that. And they earn a rate of return on that. And it is in the hundreds of millions of dollars that stable coins do. And they provide liquidity to these markets. And Versan, I know you have an amazing theory when it comes to RLUSD and RL Yen and all these other ones. And I think it has some credence, and it would be good for you to share that, I think, right at this point.
If I may. So the other day I was on the phone with David. I just put an article about this today, and I had to carefully write this thing out just so I didn't get a lot of backlash from the community and give them the perspective that I had so they can really understand it. But called David, I called Vendel shortly after, and even Edo to share something very intriguing. So I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. Now, we all know the dollar functions as a central bank note, but it's not digital. But the central bank note is a liability of the Federal Reserve. And when you look at real USD, things really get very interesting if you interpret the language correctly. Now, real USD is labeled as a stable coin. Real USD is essentially a tokenized version of a fiat dollar, which is also a central bank liability. So in practical terms, what I'm trying to say is that real USD is effectively a digital dollar. Now, here's the point. Just because the term central bank digital currency, CBDC, isn't explicitly attached to real USD, doesn't mean it really isn't servicing the same function. Real USD operates in a very similar manner to a CBDC, not just because you can use it for transactions, but you can also use it to bridge other digital currencies like a digital yuan or a digital euro. And additionally, I think central banks can hold these reserves in stablecoins in a way that's quite very similar to how you would use a CBDC. It's a place to park your money. It's also a Fed issued liability, whether the Fed is openly involved or not. And let's not forget some of the other documents that connect Ripple to the Federal Reserve as well, from FedNow and the payments. So it all comes down, I think, to the language, how it's being implemented and how it's being used. They're writing, I think, the terms in such a way that most people don't understand what's really happening beneath the surface, because the phrase CBDC has built up over the last 4 years such a negative reputation. And I think it's very possible that CBDCs are being rolled out regardless of public perception and just under a different label like stablecoins, because they can effectively do the same thing which a CBDC could do. So it's very possible that real USD is the CBDC. And just another way to reiteration to remind people why you need to hold physical assets like gold and silver. But it's a theory. I don't actually have substantial evidence to support it, but it's all in the language. If you understand how to interpret the language that these banks are writing out in these documents, then you could really, I think you could break the ice on that.
May I add one thing to what you just said, and then Ido and David, you can take it off from here. I just want to add that there's this misconception, and people think that stable coins are inherently like 100% unprogrammable. Basically, in other words, they think that okay, only a CBDC is programmable and surveillable. But the fact of the matter is, if you actually look at the tech, a stable coin and a CBDC both have that programmability aspect to it, and surveillability, which means they can be controlled and monitored. So they have that aspect to it. And Whitney Webb, a highly notable journalist, actually dug into great detail and depth on this subject and exposed it for the facts that it is, you know. So very interesting there. And I feel like it's funny because a lot of people want to kind of ignore that fact. Kind of like all the political stuff we're seeing, you know.
Yep.
Same thing. And that's kind of silly in my opinion. You got to look at all the data subjectively. So
yeah, it's also intentionally being disregarded. And something else that David and I talked about. Edo, would you like to put some thoughts into this? I'm sorry, man.
It's okay, Versan, go ahead. And after I will actually change the direction of the conversation. So I want to talk about what's happening on the activity on the ledger, but you can conclude.
Like the meme coins. Yeah. By the way, Edo and I created some cryptos on the XRP ledger. Okay. We'll talk about that later. I think another important thing that hasn't been widely discussed is the fact that XRP and XLM, I really believe, guys, and this is in the article too, I think that if you really look at these technologies and the potential, of course, that they have, there is a pattern that could possibly suggest that XRP and XLM could actually evolve into a dual currency payment system. And the original idea of this dual payment currency system, how I got the idea to write about it in such a way that I think people could understand it, was through the IMF's Trust Bridges Flow document. You guys are all familiar with this, but there's an article in there where it talks about a two-tier monetary system. And when you think two-tier, the only thing that could come to my mind is XRP and XLM. And those two digital assets have been openly discussed in these documents. So if you study the technology and design, understand how they're designed to address different financial needs, different challenges, they also complement each other in such a way that really, I think, creates that uniformed payment system. Everyone knows XRP's strength lies in its ability to handle large-scale transactions, which positions it naturally for XRP to become the ideal choice for driving liquidity and effectively settling international transactions. Then you have XLM, which was really designed for banking the unbanked. We are moving into recession, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. We are falling into economic turmoil. Whether people want to acknowledge it or not, this is still happening. And you think about it, it's designed for banking the unbanked, and it really was designed to empower individuals and businesses to access decentralized payments and solutions. I'd like to quote decentralization because I don't believe in that shit. And it allows you to participate in a digital economy, which is Web 3.0, where this is all going. So I think just together, these two, based on that IMF document and just some other things that have been playing out, they're the only two networks out there that are being widely adopted by some of the largest institutions. I think together, those two takes two to tango. In the World Bank document, it says this. That's your balanced dual currency ecosystem, where one is designed for the institutions and the other is designed for everyday people. I just thought that was very interesting. I even called these guys to talk to them about it. And, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Can I comment on this for a quick second?
Absolutely, please.
So
And Vendel, too.
I just want to present something, if I can, just to see that, banking the unbanked is not some small little thing. Now, this was done in 2021, and it's talking about banking the unbanked, and the impacts of banking the unbanked is massive. I mean, massive. This is an untapped gold mine. And I just wanted to show that article just because if you really research the impacts of banking the unbanked. Now, Judy and I have traveled to Rwanda about 4 times over a period of 10 years, 4 or 5 times over a period of 10 years. And I'll tell you what, the infrastructure in that country, and literally have watched them put cell towers up and hand out phones to people so that they can participate in a financial system that the majority of them have never, ever been exposed to. Now, most of us in the Western world, we get exposed to this, all the services, all of this, all of that, not taking for granted our access to that. This is major. And when you think about these micro loans and all this kind of stuff, and they go, oh, it's small potatoes, it's $1,000 or less to each one. Well, I'll tell you what, would you rather issue, $1 million, you give one person a loan for $1 million, or would you rather give 1,000 people, a loan for $2,000 or something like that, right? Things like this. What you really don't realize is we are talking millions of people being onboarded into this financial system. That in and of itself is going to be such a tremendous wave. It is an untapped gold mine for the banking sectors in the wide world. And it's going to be accomplished with distributed ledger technology, zero doubt. And that's where you're going to see mass adoption. I do believe XLM is a big, big part of that. That's one of their primary mandates. And of course, XRP, but primarily XLM is going to see that. And to think that you can pick some of these assets up for under a dime right now, that is mind-bending when you consider the impacts of what it's going to be in the future, in my estimation anyway.
I totally agree. My God, I have so much I want to say, but I got to let others speak.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, there has been one development that is flying under the radar. Have you guys seen on Meridian 2024? That's the convention for Stellar that took place in London last week. And they just announced a partnership with Stripe. So I think that's absolutely massive because Stripe is the payment system that X actually utilizes to pay its creators. And we know that there are several connections of Elon Musk to, how is the name of, sorry, I got a brain fog. Versan, no, I didn't sleep a lot this weekend. The company of Jed McCaleb, if you guys might remember me. It's SpaceX with...
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, so they have a... Okay, in there, so Elon Musk has a partnership with Jed McCaleb, okay?
Mhm.
And now we have confirmation that Stripe is partnering with Stellar for digital payments. So what do you guys think is the next step, the next logical step? Well, for
Is
me,
XRP maybe?
X to adopt Stellar for digital payments. I think that's massive, and I think that's going unnoticed, and that's aligned with what Versan was explaining before, also in the IMF document. It always comes down to XRP and XLM.
Like
Vandel, you can
basically,
share your perspective.
Are you talking about
well,
Vast?
I was going to
Vast?
say real quick,
Vast,
guys.
yes, vast. Yes,
Yeah,
vast.
every digital trace seems to come back to Ripple. Every digital trace. You look anywhere, it always leads back to Ripple. Sorry to interrupt, man. Please continue your thought.
And yeah, someone in the comments has pointed very well. Stripe, they actually own 2% of XLM supply. So what are they planning to do with that, right? 2%. That's a fact. It's not even speculation.
I agree. And also, if I could play this, not play it, but I want to share on the screen. And Vidal, I'd like to hear more from you. But check this out, guys. This one's also with Ripple. This is a while ago. I said Elon Musk's connection to Ripple is no secret. It's always been part of the larger narrative. I think we can all agree on that. In the older days, you know, if you go back and do some research, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, they backed OneCoin, I believe, and then rebranded it to OpenCoin, and then eventually it became Ripple under Chris Larsen. So also the fact with the relationship between Elon Musk and Jed McCaleb, I'm going to pull that tweet up here somewhere in a few minutes while you're talking, Mindell, but it's very possible that this dual currency thing I was talking about will also play some sort of role in that. Listen, guys, the whole dual currency thing, I would love to get your take on it for the rest of the audience to listen, but I don't think I'm wrong. I mean, it's there in the documents. You just have to put the pieces together. And you know, for most of the people in this space, they understand, they have a general idea of how these two play a very big role, but you can't really connect the dots for people. You know, that's something internal. You do your research, things make sense, and you come up with these conclusions. So what do you guys think about that?
I'll speak. Okay. Well, what David said was really important of how big the unbanked market is. So it's approximately 1.4 billion people around the world that are unbanked. In simple terms, what does that mean? They just don't have a bank account. They barely have access to any financial institutions and financial services. That's a large part of the world's population. And what I do want to add to that is, I mean, I do agree with all of you guys, and we're all on the same page here that if you do own that protocol, a piece of the infrastructure, which is the token in this case, you're pretty much setting yourself up for significant returns and wealth generation, given how low these prices are and how early we are in this development stage of the cycle. So I do believe there's a lot of opportunity there if you do own these assets, piece of the network, the protocol. But I do want to add that as much as they like to mask it and paint it like such an optimistic thing for the world and banking the unbanked, there's going to be a trade-off here. And David and I, we talk about this quite often, very frequently, because a lot of people just look at the positive sides. This is the problem in the crypto space. People, I think people should be genuinely optimistic in nature, especially with the opportunities in the world today. But it would be extremely naive to overlook the other side of the coin. Okay. And this is what David always talks about. So I have to reiterate it. And you guys already agree and know this stuff, but for the audience, that there's going to be a trade-off here. Okay. So banking the unbanked, you're basically going to slave the unslaved. All right. Just say it for what it is, because there's going to be a trade in liberty here. Because once they get on that, whatever it is, that currency, that CBDC, that banking the unbanked, essentially they are being transitioned forced to transition into a system that is centralized, okay? Ultimately, by the central banks and the ones who are in control of the monetary system and the payment infrastructure. So as much as the unbanked will be banked and have opportunities, there will be a trade-off. And David always elaborates in detail on this. And I think that's an important point to take home. So it's not just a free lunch, as David says. So something to be aware of and not be so naive just looking at one side of the coin.
I agree. Edo, I know you've had a lot of insights on this as well.
Can you guys hear me good, the mic?
Yeah. Hear you.
Yeah. I think banking the unbanked is going to take a lot of distributed ledger technology. And every single document that I have been reading, and I dedicated hundreds, if not thousands of hours of research in the past, let's say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And I have gone through everything from World Economic Forum, International Monetary Fund. The outcome is always the same. Everything comes down to distributed ledger technology. And mostly it's like you try to find something out of XRP, but it's difficult. It's very difficult because it really seems that it will be at the foundation of the system, because you find XRP and XLM everywhere. And I'm not saying that there will be only 2 chains. I think the future is multi-chain, but I think there will be a handful of blockchains that are going to be participating on the new financial system, perhaps 10, 12 blockchains, which can translate, of course, to more coins. I'm not saying there will be only 10 cryptocurrencies, but I'm saying that there will be probably 10 to 12 blockchains. And I got this also from a presentation, which I already mentioned in the past on the Turning Point. It was called Salotti dei Pagamenti. It was a presentation for bankers in Italy, a closed presentation where they presented a slide, and they were openly telling us that there would be around 7 to 8, that was 3 years ago, that was around 7 to 8 mainstream DLT platforms and blockchains that would basically run the financial system. And you can guess which one was at the core of the slide presentation. That's right, it was XLM. XRP was at the center, but they also had XLM, they also had Algorand. Someone also asked me about HBAR in the comments, and yes, HBAR is one of my favorite cryptocurrencies. Just that Hedera is not technically talking, it's not a blockchain, it's a hash graph, so they validate transactions without building blocks. It's a different technology, but I do believe also that HBAR is going to play a pivotal role on this transformation. Not so important as XRP, but still something that I would consider having on my portfolio. And I think we can kind of switch the conversation. I was talking to Versan before that something very interesting is happening right now on the XRP ledger, because we have finally a lot of people from other chains that are joining, creating trust lines. And that's what the title of this video is about. Ripple's XRP adoption surges as a record-breaking wallet activity. So this weekend we reached the all-time high for new wallets in 7 months, and also for transactions on the ledger. So we can see that adoption is spiking up. People from other chains, from Ethereum, people from Solana. We know, if you follow us, you know we are very skeptical about meme tokens, meme coins. Actually, I don't endorse them. I don't think they should be a vast majority of your portfolio. And I have always said that, and I 100% mean what I am saying. But in the same way, we should not fight against this wave, because ultimately that's driving a lot of liquidity on the XRP ecosystem. So we have people finally coming over from Solana, and what these people are starting to understand is that, you can guess, the transaction fees are much lower on the XRP ledger than on Solana blockchain. And they are starting to move money across wallets, and you can start what they are realizing, right? That's the fastest way, cheaper way to transact. It's faster than Ethereum, it's actually cheaper and more reliable than Solana. And once these people are actually coming for some whatever reason they are, most of them are coming because they found there's a new wave of mem tokens on the XRP ledger. But what happens is that these people end up here for the long term because they understand, wait a minute, this technology is actually superior to what I am used to. And once they go to XRP, they can't go back to the previous technologies because they just realize, why should you be paying high transaction fees? It's true to this day that most liquidity for DeFi is on Ethereum, but I think this can be the brick of a brand new transformation, a change on the paradigm that can be, in my opinion, a game changer for the activity on the XRP ledger and also a catalyst for adoption. And I would like to hear your opinion of the three of you.
Well, if I can go quick, and then I might have to jet, but I want to throw something out there because Edo really makes a big point about the adoption. And I think if we can even, kind of piggyback on what we were talking about before about banking the unbanked. Something that I want to share here. Let me just see here if I can. Right here is this. So this is SpaceX's website, and when you look at it, it's inviting world's carriers to collaborate. No more dead cell phones, because of course SpaceX. And when you go to Starlink, I mean, they're second generation satellites. Their goal is to literally have no place on Earth where you will not be able to get a signal. Now, my belief is, and by the way, this is Jeb McCaleb's VAST, who is interacting and integrating with Starlink and with Elon Musk. I'll just stop sharing that. But my thinking is this. Look, they are going to make it so that it is practically seamless. I do believe that down the road, high-speed internet is going to be free. It is going to be free. And we are going to see a situation where there's going to be mass onboarding and adoption of practically every person on Earth into these ecosystems. XLM is going to be a big part of that. Of course, XRP is going to be a big part of that. We're seeing, new applications that are exciting for us that are in this space, but the big onboarding and adoption is going to be the integration of every human being on Earth into this new financial system. Digital IDs are going to be a part of that. And, you even got Canada proposing right now. Now, get this, if you can imagine, rather than issuing, taking your baby's footprint or that, they want to go out there, and they're throwing out legislation right now to see whether it'll get approved, of chipping infants as they're born. Yeah. And so all of this is going to fall back on distributed ledger technology, so we can see where the future is going, and the onboarding and adoption is going to be significant. Institutions are already biting at the bit to get into this space big time. We're watching probably one of the biggest evolutionary changes for the way monetary instruments have worked in the history of the wide world. Does that represent opportunity? Well, yeah, I believe it does. And I do believe it'll probably represent the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind. I know Versan believes that, and certainly Bandel in our discussions. And, we are seeing that this is happening. And the trade-off is, yes, you will have, better availability for this and that, but it's going to have impacts on the way the world works. And so I just want to throw that out there. That's my last comment because I have to actually split. But you know what? I think that what's coming is going to literally mesmerize people. They have not even fathomed. We haven't even scratched the surface. Less than 0.1% of 1% really in the wide world are exposed to what this distributed ledger technology is going to bring. And I think it's going to be tremendous. It is going to be tremendous. So, but guys, thank you so much. I really have valued these discussions are just phenomenal. And folks out there, this is what I would say. Be prepared. Get yourself ready. Don't let an opportunity, at least you owe it to yourself to really investigate it and avail yourself of the, the resources that are available. And this is where I always put this plug out there. Because I know that, Versan and Vandel, they go out there and they actually make themselves available to provide coaching and things like that. I know that Edo has programs out there, and I do as well. And guys, we are doing it to the best of our ability to get as many people prepared and ready as possible, really as possible. And just, and people that have taken these, steps to get themselves, the feedback has been amazing. And from every walk of life that you can imagine, from the medical field, scientific field, from sports, from entertainers, for you name it, just rank and file folks and everything like that. Because there are people that are seeing, hey, look, what is coming? And I'm telling you, what's going to come, the world won't even be recognizable, perhaps even 5 years from now, from where it is right now. And I know we think, oh, that's so tough to believe. Well, I watched it happen in my lifetime. These smartphones, they came out, 2007? Now from a kindergartner all the way to people in the old folks home, everyone's got one.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
very
if
early.
I can also say, with the Elon Musk, his narrative is very interesting because he is trying to get satellites all over the world. And with that information you shared with us, working with VAST, that's Jed McCaleb, creator of the XLM ledger and participant in XRP. What I find interesting is that Elon Musk is trying to unveil his new phone. That new phone that he's coming out with, it's very possible that this is going to be the technology where XLM will be functioning on, as far as peer-to-peer transactions for everybody, banking the unbanked, like you said, which would require a lot of energy too. That's probably what the satellites are up there for. So if you look at what happened in Cuba over the last 10 days, nobody's talking about this in the world, but Cuba has been in a blackout. Did you guys know that?
Already rioting on the third day.
Right.
The average person's making like $30 a month.
Yeah, it's very sad. And my point though is that when you really look at what these big institutions do, and I'm talking about like the Gates Foundation, for instance, they hit these smaller countries that don't get media attention. They take out their banks, they drop bombs, they test new drugs and things, right? They don't do it on populations like the US for a reason, because people are not, in America, it's different. This is like, it's very interesting, guys. What I'm trying to say is they're testing these things out in other nations before they bring it here. My point, though, is that with the satellites going up and then going back to 2020, 2021, and even 2022 and 3, the World Economic Forum, the Davos guys talking about this cyber attack. Now with geopolitical escalation, there's like no doubt that they're engineering something, problem, reaction, solution. If the power goes out, you got Elon Musk, you got his new phone, you got your satellites in place, and you got a new currency payment system. One to deal with the institutions and one for the people. What I find interesting, final thought, is how just this is being so carefully and methodically orchestrated that there are people even in the space who say, and I love what my brother said, there's a trade-off. What you said, David, there is a trade-off for this, guys. People are talking about a Q phone. That could be it, for all we know. Talking about debt jubilee. That could be it. Trade off one freedom for another. We will dissolve your debt, but you're not asking yourself a critical question. Well, every person's debt is somebody else's asset. So who's benefiting from a debt jubilee?
Yeah, and usually the assets, if you trace them back, go all the way back to the central banks.
Always, or some person above that.
And this is where we're seeing, we're going to see, it's the accumulation of wealth for sure. But these guys, they want to be the basically the lenders and the issuers of only resort, not even just last resort. So,
but that's why you want to hold XRP, because when you're holding something like XRP, the way I see it is you are essentially holding a key to the global money supply or the global total value of where all of this is going. So essentially, you are the new 1%, if you will. If you get to make it through this,
if you can make it through it. So
if you can make it through, so don't sell your gold and silver, don't sell your crypto. But see, that's what they're doing. They're putting these economic hardships to where people are forced to sell those assets. And we talked about this many times before, so I don't know.
It's a good point. Bless you guys.
I know you need to go, David.
I'm going to take off, and but it's a great conversation. And
I'll give you a call later.
You bet. All right, guys. Bye.
Take care, David. Bye.
See you, David.
Vendel, would you like to put in some final thoughts before we kind of wrap this thing up?
Yeah, what you said is true. Actually, they do tests in smaller countries and more undeveloped parts of the world before they bring it to more developed cities and nations in the world. That's pretty typical. They've done this since the 1930s, so that's a fact. That's not speculative. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. For those who don't know, study your history. You'll know that. That's what I have to say on that. But what David was saying is how early we are. Yeah, so it's actually like a little bit less than 6% of the entire world's population has a crypto wallet or some cryptocurrency. And of course, you can imagine it's not even a lot for most people. So that's how early we are. And the S curve, which is the adoption growth of blockchain technology, is actually much faster, growing at a faster rate if you compared it to the internet and the Web 2.0 era, which is the .com time frame. So we're having a much faster growth curve on blockchain adoption, cryptocurrency adoption, crypto wallets being open. So it's happening exponentially fast at a faster rate, but we're still early. That's the crazy thing. That's how early we are. So imagine what these prices are going to be for some of these assets in a couple of years from now. I'm not talking about these 4-year liquidity cycles that we see. We're talking about the utility aspect of it. We're not even there yet. It's happening in the background really slowly, but we haven't hit mainstream global adoption, because when we do, we would not be talking about this.
Yeah,
it would be talking about a cell phone. Like, why would we talk about it? Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's the truth. That's how early we are. So there's a lot of room for growth. But even during the .com era, when companies were coming out, all they wanted to do is they could be a crappy company and they were still raising capital. That's what you're seeing today with crypto. There's 20,000 plus cryptocurrencies and companies all trying to solve a problem. They're not trying to solve a problem. They're trying to take your money and take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, they're trying to take your money and solve their problem.
Edo, go ahead, brother.
Edo, yeah.
I mean, to this day, right, you talk about crypto and mainstream people, they only know about Bitcoin, perhaps Ethereum, and they believe XRP is a centralized banker's coin that it's controlled by a handful of people. They don't fully understand how it works, how the technology works, and what's the real purpose of XRP. Well, I do agree it's a banker's coin, though. However, the fact that everyone is still talking about Bitcoin, just go and ask the average person. I mean, I don't know in the US, probably more than in where I live, but if I would go ask 100 people here in Greece, I think maybe one is going to at least know about crypto, and to hold some crypto, I think it's even perhaps the 0.1% of the population in Greece, and in many European countries, the reality is the same. So that shows how early we are, and we have to understand people sometimes want fast price appreciation, but they don't understand. I like to quote David Schwartz on this one. You don't expect to revolutionize the financial system overnight, right? That's a gradual transformation. But I think from now, we are entering a stage where things are going to accelerate quickly. And you have to make a decision. Are you going to be on board, or are you actually going to wait until it's too late? Because think about the big picture. Central banks already accumulated tons of gold, all-time highs. Gold is hitting new all-time highs, so it's already done. And once they already bought the gold, it really communicates that we are entering a new paradigm transformation. Second, we have artificial intelligence, which is going to wipe out the majority of the jobs. And that's going to happen quickly. We have Elon Musk last week has just released new machines that can basically outperform 90% of the employees, right? You have why you need someone to work at your restaurant if you have a robot that can work 24 hours a day, doesn't need vacations. and can basically do everything without sleep. It costs $20,000 to purchase such a thing. It's already a reality. So
Yeah.
I think
And
from let's say from when everything started, let's say 10 years ago to now, it was a gradual transformation. But I think from 2024 to the next 3 years, I think that's going to be very intense. I think the thing it's going to escalate so much that if we look the word 3 years from now, it's a word you can no longer recognize. So I would say that you need to take action, because the gap between the wealthy and the poor is going to be so wild that if you don't make money in these 3 years, I think it's going to be extremely difficult 3 years or 4 years from now. I think we have a huge, fabulous opportunity now where, as Versan said, you can buy a currency like XRP, which ultimately allows you to hold a piece of the infrastructure of the new financial system. And I think that's the beauty of the times that we are living in. So I would conclude with that.
incredibly said. Thank you so much, Edo. And my God, you guys got to check out Edo's X account, his YouTube channel. He really puts a lot of good information out there. And, I'm just blessed to be friends with Edo and have the honor to know him. He's really got a unique perspective on all this, and he sees through all the bullshit. That's the best part about it.
I agree.
So yeah. And that's why we created this group, The Turning Point, because we don't listen to the noise. We give the facts, we discuss them, and we try to figure shit out for ourselves. And that's the beauty of it. We can do it all together. So great points, Edo. I think, guys, it's very important. We know we can make money and profit from this. And yes, it's going to accelerate. Just look at what's happening. AI is really wiping out all the jobs. Amazon, like a week ago, 14,000 manager roles gone, just like that. It's going to be a gradual delay. And with the AI computers, the robots, I went to see them yesterday at Tesla in the mall. I looked at these things. I asked some questions about them. They're advancing already. They're already working on another one. That's what the guy told me. That was just the first model. The second one is going to be way more advanced, faster, smarter. That's what they told me. Mm-hmm. So that's going to accelerate the narrative for what Stellar is trying to do, banking the unbanked, because there will be less jobs. So more people will become utterly useless is the selling point. And I think that's where a lot of this is going to really accelerate, like Edo said. So just last thing, Vendel, is everybody, and I've said this many times, you have to streamline your business, streamline your services onto the internet, because that's where it's all going. If you do not do this, it's very possible that you may get left behind as far as being relative to society.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Anyways, yeah. So those are my final thoughts. I do have to go here in a few minutes. So anything else, guys, or can we wrap this up? I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
We cover a lot. Thanks, everyone, for the kind words. I appreciate coming from you, Vandao, and from you, Versan. And I heard a rumor that next week we're going to release the Turning Point meme coin. I'm joking, guys. If you see anything related to it, it's not created by us.
Yeah, about that meme coin, I guess I'll let people know I did see it in the comments. We created a few. It was fun. We wanted to experiment, see what it was like to actually create a meme coin. I came out with a meme coin that pissed off a lot of people in this space. I'm not going to talk about it. But some people got really angry about it because they didn't get to it first. I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, it was fun. It did cost me about 1,500 XRP to issue the meme coins. It was very cheap, but the thing is I wanted to put my own money in there before letting people speculate on it, I guess. Anyways, that's just going to foster more adoption and drag investors in, like Edo said. So I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all the support.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Please be sure to support our work and follow us. Mm-hmm.